Thank you for the opportunity to speak here for the organizers. The venue certainly does not disappoint. Unfortunately, the Irish drizzle doesn't either. I try to be on time, and I'd like to briefly introduce you to Kizu, the investment vehicle that I represent. At the end, I'd like to raise one or two questions, a little bit provocative. I don't have the answers to them. If you do, please approach me afterwards during the networking session or in the breaks. Kizu has three pillars. We have the venture capital arm. That is the most important thing for today. We also have a foundation that is attached to it, the Forever Healthy Foundation, that organizes an annual conference in Berlin. And this is our setup. Who are we? We are a family office, meaning we have no defined fund size, no time limit, so we are evergreen in structure. We invest globally and only exclusively into the rejuvenation space. The organization was set up in 2008 as a venture capital for IT investment, but completely switched 8 years later, also thanks to Aubrey. We had a long-standing collaboration with the Sense Research Foundation, and since 2016, we have a pure focus on rejuvenation. And Jan, you may add us to your timeline, where are you sitting? Because we were even 1 year earlier, I think. The first couple of investments were only in the US. That's where the field first took off, where we are based in southern Germany. And have three people as core team. Michael, our founder, and, well, in the end, the sole decision maker. It's his money. Frank, my colleague, who does the non-scientific stuff, so to say, contracts, etc., and myself. We'd like to invest in what we call category openers. Having heard the talk from Matt this morning, I like the term pragmatic moonshots a lot. Maybe we consider that. As an example, what we call a category opener, I'd like to take Senolytics. We had one or the other Senolytic investment at the beginning, 16, 17 or so. However, nowadays, we pretty much consider this category open and would probably no longer be interested, even if there are bells and whistles to it, maybe a suicide switch or special targeting, etc. That's probably no longer in our interest. We really seek the high risk, high reward things. I've worked in big pharma. I've been a partner at a conventional venture capital fund, one might say. I worked in banking. All industries, they look for innovation. But when push comes to shove, they shy away from it. They de-risk their projects. That's a typical pharma term. Often it means that you get, surprise, the low-hanging fruit. That's not what we are looking for. We really want to have things that reverse, very important for us, a part of the aging processes. Not delaying a disease by a couple of quarters in oncology or getting demented maybe a year later, etc. We always want to have one aspect in the mode of action of the drugs that our portfolio companies are developing that reverse one thing. Now, I guess it's best if we look at a couple of examples for that. We have only a handful, literally, of key investments where we really are a large player, and we'd like to remain a substantial partner and investor in them for a long time, because our main drive is actually therapies reaching the market. If it's also a financial success, all the better. First example is Selvi, developing mitochondria as a therapeutic modality. You can inject them into muscles, into the heart. We already have some data from humans. There have been about a dozen children treated at the Boston Children's Hospital, but still early days. Technically, they're still preclinical. Another category opener, which Aubrey is well familiar with, are the advanced glycation end products. And to my knowledge, Revel Pharmaceuticals in the Silicon Valley is still the only commercial endeavor that is developing age breakers. So over the decades, we accumulate crosslinks between proteins and glucose. They are unavoidable to some extent, and there are no enzymes foreseen in the body to reverse that. Revel has a platform developing such enzymes. Next example, coming directly out of the Sense Research Foundation, Cyclarity, also in San Francisco, is developing a treatment against plaques that are formed by oxidized cholesterol. There we are pretty close to the clinic, and we have very nice data that foam cells, these are the poor guys who try to gobble up the debris that are in the vessels, can be reverted in their phenotype by their approach, which is a special form of cyclodextrins. I'd also like to mention Lift Biosciences, which is special because it's oncology. And I think oncology is in a category on its own when it comes to longevity. Because we always look to big pharma and biotech, how they are developing drugs, the whole regulatory systems, the CROs, et cetera, et cetera. They're all set up in a special way. And what is almost exclusively the case is that we are looking for targeted treatments, as they say. In oncology, we have a moving target, right? This is a disease, or a whole gamut of diseases, actually, that is constantly mutating. You can develop inhibitors for BRAF, for ERK, for whatever target you find, but then the cells stop expressing it, or they become resistant, etc. So I had initially a hard time to convince Kizu for oncology. However, Lift is different. Lift engages the innate immune system, and fingers crossed, it's close to the clinic, but not yet there. It should be theoretically independent of the mutation or the origin where the cancer first evolves. The recognition mechanisms are different there, and you don't need a single surface molecule or whatever. Then we have elastrin. Matthias Brögelmans presented yesterday. He did it so well, I will not repeat myself here. So I skip over this one here. And last but not least, there's Mogling Bio, our newest baby, newest addition to the portfolio. This company tries to rejuvenate, and I still have some difficulties pronouncing that word. As a scientist, it's always quite a bold statement, rejuvenate hematopoietic stem cells. But when I did the due diligence, I actually realized rejuvenating in this case is just making sure that stem cells divide asymmetrically again. What is a stem cell? In principle, it's a cell that has a daughter cell that starts to differentiate, it's different, and the other one remains a stem cell, please. Otherwise, the whole species is in trouble, right? And with aging, this division becomes noisy, becomes less clear. This is due to a sorting of proteins in the cell, and that's exactly what Mogling Bio is tackling, that this sorting is young and healthy again. That's already what I wanted to say about Kizu. Now to the couple of thoughts I'd like to share with you, because this whole session is about financing rejuvenation companies. Where will we go from here? We have seen nice progress over the last couple of years, but it's mostly been borne by very wealthy people, up to Jeff Bezos with Altos Labs. We need much more money going from here if we want to develop. Where will it come from? Governments? Non-profits? I doubt it. The only industry that has ever developed successfully new drugs, innovative new treatments, is the pharma biotech industry. So I think for a lot of us, the tacit assumption is, oh, well, they will come over. At one point in time, we're ripe, and then the floodgates will open, and we will see a lot of money coming from them. I have some reservations there. I'm skeptical. One reason is that we always want to sell our companies. Money is king, right? Cash is king. So we are often forced, especially if we are a closed-end fund, you need to show success, meaning financial return, at the end of your fund life. Then you have to raise the next fund, et cetera, et cetera. So you tend to sell your companies as early as possible, if the price is right, of course. Phase 1B, Phase 2A, first POC in humans. Will the acquirer share your enthusiasm about the longevity potential of your drug? Maybe there are some project champions there that say so initially, but chances are, I also worked at a big pharma company, that they reshuffle management, they reshuffle strategies, priorities, etc. So it could well be that you sell your company and you have, of course, an accepted indication, pharmaceutical indication with nice endpoints, etc. And then in the end, you get maybe a nice eye drug that maybe delays blindness a little bit, but the longevity potential is lost. Could happen. We are all focused on these exits, as they are called, but it very often could also mean exiters for the longevity project that you were so enamored with. Another reservation that I have is the target thinking of Big Pharma. They want to have a single target and validate it, please, very well validated and de-risked also. However, if you look at how much points in your metabolism, in your body, in your genetic network you have that are actually longevity related, and there's a Cell paper about that in 2017, based on GenAge database, there were 837, I think, longevity genes in C. elegans. There were 126 left in the mouse. And guess how many in humans, according to these criteria? 7. We know this intuitively. Effects get lost the higher an organism is evolved. Even caloric restriction, as the prime example, has diminishing effects depending on the organism, and humans are kind of the pinnacle of that. So we shouldn't expect too much from single molecules, targeted treatments, be it small molecules or antibodies. So I think really need to think outside of the box. And I liked Matt Kaeberlein's talk about the 1 million screening. Maybe it's not feasible, but maybe you should even combine a lot of those to get away from this single molecule thinking that we have. So in summary, I don't want to sound pessimistic, but we need success cases, and we shouldn't count too much on the big guys from pharma and biotech to help us anytime soon. Thank you.
Great job, Patrick. Thank you so much. We've got time for one question before we bring Eleanor up. Go. Who's got the microphones?
Thank you for that very clear talk. You mentioned people being focused on exits because they love money. But don't you agree that we should unequivocally make the statement that when you're focused in this space on money, you're not really focused on the solutions and solving the problem for humanity? Can you reflect on that?
Yeah, maybe two answers to that. One, it's not that clear what the focus is. You have maybe a founding team, and they say, well, we're all about longevity, etc. We accept lower salaries but maybe in the end they are driven by money. You don't really know that. That's why we put a lot of focus in our due diligence on the mindset, on the spirit, and avoid the people that want to get rich quick in a way. So, and the other thought that I have is, yes, we need exits, but maybe a way around this is to create sub-projects. Maybe you can have an exit or partial exit by selling, to reuse the same example, the eye drug, and keep the longevity things internally and try to bring that forward.
Yeah, and I'd like to actually add a third answer, which is that now there has become quite a habit for startups in this space to begin working on orphan indications that are maybe early onset diseases because they have the same mechanism at an accelerated rate as something that goes on in aging, and then to look to label expand thereafter. I think that's showing itself to be quite a viable business model. Thanks very much again.